All right, hey guys, what's up? It is about to be week 15 of the 2014 NFL season. As always, Derek Class and myself, joined by Ben Ton, and this is the Savage Cast. So let's hop right into it. We have Cardinals at Rams. Um, the Rams are a scary team, believe it or not. That defensive, we say it every week, but that defensive line is going to give the Arizona Cardinals offensive line some issues, especially with Drew Stanton at quarterback. Uh, I don't know if I trust Drew Stanton and a mediocre Arizona offensive line against the St. Louis Rams defensive line. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure there, and Stanton's going to make mistakes. And T.J. McDonald, I think, has been an underrated safety this year, and there's going to be opportunities for him to make some plays. But yeah, I'm not really liking where I think the Cardinals can win on offense is that they have the advantage with their skill players, with Michael Floyd, uh, the two Browns, and Larry Fitzgerald. So they have the advantage there against the secondary for the most part, but like I said, it's going to be a trench war. And oh, that's right, Ellington's out. But still, I think because that plays more into the trench war with running the ball. They're not going to be able to get the ball going on the ground, and then so they're going to have to throw, but they're going to lose the trench war to Aaron Donald, Chris Long, Robert Quinn. This nasty Rams front, and Stan's not going to be able to handle it. On the flip side of the ball, Trey Mason, I think, is going to have to be what the Cardinals look to stop here, because if the Rams can't get a running game going, they're not going to be able to live off the passing game, especially against this really talented Arizona Cardinals secondary. So if Bowles can do what he can to shut down Trey Mason, which I think with this Arizona Cardinals defense he certainly can, that is going to be what can get the Cardinals the win here, and I think they're going to do it.
I think for the Rams on defense, they're going to really have to focus on stopping the run with their front four, because the Cardinals have Kerwin Williams now, who has been quite good for them, who was very good last week, and that's going to be their bell cow for this game. So it's going to be really important to shut him down, so you have to force the offense to be one-dimensional. And with Drew Stanton at quarterback, while he's not bad, if you're forcing him to be one-dimensional against such a good Rams defensive line with some weaknesses along your offensive line, it's going to be hard to pass the ball. I worry about Michael Floyd and Larry Fitzgerald and John Brown against these corners, because Janoris Jenkins has been underperforming. Tremaine Johnson's kind of in the middle of the road. TJ Gaines has been very good, and he's probably the guy I'd put on Michael Floyd. But you're really depending on your front four specifically to create issues, which they've done so well over the course of this entire season. On offense for the Rams, I would try to continue to run the ball. I think that Trey Mason's numbers look a lot better than he has. The Rams' offensive line has gotten a lot of push recently, and he's really benefiting from that. So I'm going to keep on trying to run the ball in order to keep the defense honest, but it's important to get passing against this Cardinals defense, which is talented in the secondary, but a little bit overrated, especially with Patrick Peterson. So I'm going to go after him with Stedman Bailey and Kenny Britt. And it's also important to use Jared Cook, because Jared Cook's games under the Rams, his best games have come against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals have issues defending against tight ends. And I think Jared Cook, while not being a great player, is definitely a guy who can win against a team that has issues covering tight ends. So that would be my game plan. Run the ball in order to keep the defense honest, but really you want to attack the middle of the field with Jared Cook. And on defense, you're really depending on your front four in order to stop the run and force Arizona into passing situations.
Yeah, that's all fair. And the Cardinals were getting a lot more hype as the season was going along, and that was totally warranted. But the Rams have been definitely a respectable team, and I think, especially being a division game, it's going to be really close. But I still want to give the edge to the Cardinals here.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's see, who's next? First Sunday game is Steelers at Falcons. I like the Steelers because their offense is incredibly explosive. But at the same time, Todd Haley, I've said it last week, I've grown to not like him that much. So I think if this is a matchup that Todd Haley just doesn't, overthink himself and just lets Big Ben run around this really bad Falcons front and just get the ball to his skill players, the Steelers are going to put up points. And so I don't think the Steelers are going to have any problems putting up points. Le'Veon Bell is going to be able to run against this Falcons defense. And aside from whoever Desmond Trufant is covering, because Desmond Trufant's been really good this year, so aside from who he is covering, I'm pretty comfortable that the Steelers are going to be able to find a matchup somewhere on offense and have somebody open to get some yards. On the other side of the ball, it's obviously all about shutting down Julio Jones, and that's going to be an issue for the Steelers because they don't have a good secondary by any means. William Gay isn't good. Ike Taylor really isn't that good, and Julio Jones, if I remember correctly, had the most yards in a single game of his career last week.
Yeah.
Yesterday. So he's hot right now, and I'm pretty sure he had a big week before that. So him and Matt Ryan are cooking, and so it's going to be on this Steelers front to generate pressure. And I know Dick LeBeau likes to blitz a lot, so I think against a mediocre Atlanta line, even though the Steelers' defensive front isn't all that talented, I think against this line, enough pressure could be generated on Matt Ryan to force some mistakes. But for the most part, I think Steven Jackson is going to be able to sustain enough running success to let Ryan be comfortable and just drop back and get Julio the ball as many times as he can. So I think this is going to be a bit of a shootout, but I trust a more well-rounded Steelers offense to put up more points than the Falcons can.
Yeah, and that's really the best case scenario for the Falcons is that they can get into a shootout with the Steelers because there's no way that they're going to be able to shut down this offense. Mostly because of how talented this offense is, but also because the Falcons' defense sucks. In order to limit the Steelers, you're really hoping that they have Desmond Trufant shadow Antonio Brown. Because if you're letting Antonio Brown work in the slot and work against Robert Alford, if you're letting him anywhere else on the field besides across from Desmond Trufant, you're asking for him to have another 150 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's going to burn you. So you want Desmond Trufant covering him and trying to take him out of the game as much as possible, and just kind of depend on your defense to slow down Martavis Bryant and kind of focus on Le'Veon Bell in the running game. But once again, this is going to be really hard for the defense to slow down this offense because your front four, your pass rushing four sucks, and it's going to be hard getting pressure with them. But Big Ben is one of the best in the league against the blitz, so bringing guys out of coverage is just a death sentence. So you are praying that you can get pass rush and get Jonathan Massaquoi on the field because he's their best pass rusher, and they do not use him, and it's infuriating. So get him on the field, let him rush the passer, try to generate pressure with your front four, and hope and pray that your defense can come up with a couple 3-and-outs. As for on offense, pass the ball, because this Steelers defense sucks, and the secondary is slow and bad. The pass rush is mediocre at best. You're passing all over this defense. You're letting Julio move around, or blot, or go over the top. It doesn't matter. He's going to get his, and you're going to target him a lot. As for the running game, you do want to run the ball in order to keep the defense honest, but you're not forcing a running game where you're going to be able to have so much success in the passing game. I think overall this game is going to work for the Steelers just because they are overall the better team. But I think the Falcons have the firepower to keep up, and this is a game that Tomlin usually drops.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like we both said, it's definitely going to be a shootout, and in shootout games like these, there is always the chance that it just comes out to who has the ball the last time, and there's a very good chance that could be the Atlanta Falcons. And I like to note that you were screaming for free Jonathan Massaquoi. I know Scott Karasik on Twitter was getting all worked up about that before the Packers game. But yeah, you said the Steelers are the better overall team, and I agree with that, and I think that they're ultimately going to come out with the win. Next game up is a division game between the Redskins and the Giants. Did they announce RG3 starting for this one?
I think they said Colt McCoy if he's healthy.
That's stupid. I mean, neither of them are that good, quite frankly. And Colt McCoy fits Gruden's type better. But Colt McCoy, he's not very good. And if the Redskins offense wants to get going, they're going to have to run the ball. But the problem with that is I don't trust their offensive line that much, especially with John Hankins and Demontre Moore. I mean, he's been more of a threat as a pass rusher, and he's been a lot better than I thought he would pre-draft. But they have a few decent pieces along the defensive line, and I don't think, aside from Trent Williams, that this Redskins offensive line is good enough to create a lot for Alfred Morris. Not that Alfred Morris is a back that needs that, but it's going to be a tough day for him. But if you can get him to the second level and get him working against these New York Giants linebackers, Morris is going to be a threat. So that's what you have to do, and you also have to get Deshaun Jackson and Andre Roberts. You have to get those guys in space and let them create yards for themselves, because Colt McCoy is not going to throw these guys open. If RG3 plays, he's not going to throw these guys open. You have to get them on, crossers, slants, things like that, where they can create yards for themselves, and that's how you're going to get passing yards in this offense. So I think if they can do that and just control what Colt McCoy controls in the game, if that makes sense, then you have a good chance of winning on offense. On defense, you just have to stop Odell Beckham. He's been a monster pretty much ever since he's been healthy. He had a slow start once he came back from the injury, but ever since that, he's been an animal. So, the big thing is you have to keep him at bay. And the Redskins have a few decent pieces that are going to be able to get pressure on Eli Manning up front. They have Kerrigan, Hatcher. So I think the big thing is just keep Eli clean. Get pressure on Eli. I had that wrong. The Redskins need to get pressure on Eli and force him to make the stupid Eli mistakes that he makes every now and then. And just make him uncomfortable with wanting to throw to Beckham, or just make it uncomfortable for Eli to function, and he's going to crumble like he does. So that's how the Redskins are going to win this game.
I think for the Giants on defense, they have a lot of weapons up front. They have Jonathan Hankins, who's been outstanding this year, especially as a run defender. Demontre Moore, as you said, who's been a good pass rusher for them. Jason Pierre-Paul, who isn't the elite pass rusher that people thought he would be 2 years ago, but he's still a very good run defender. And they also have a rookie linebacker, Devin Kennard, who has been an outstanding run defender for them and also a very good pass rusher. Um, uh, yeah, he's been a very good pass rusher for them, and that's going to really factor in against the pass, and also being able to stop the run with your front seven. And I think that's really what they're going to need to focus on, is really just bring pressure and really focus on trying to stop the run. Don't really pay any attention to the pass because, Deshaun Jackson, Andre Roberts, Pierre Garcon, I mean, they're all very good weapons, Jordan Reed, but they're not Colt McCoy's going to have a hard time taking advantage of them. So you're really trying to stop Alfred Morris and forcing Colt McCoy to beat you with his arm. On offense, for the Giants don't really have that much on offense outside of Beckham, who's been outstanding, probably their best player on offense. And then you have Will Beatty, who's had a solid season. Weston Richburg's getting better playing guard. So I think those are going to really factor in. I think you're really going to want to pass on this Washington Redskins defense because it's a bad defense. Their defensive backs aren't very good outside of Bashad Breeland. And you really just want to take advantage of what you have in Beckham, move him around, get good matchups, and then pass to him. You're going to want to run the ball a little bit with Andre Williams or Rashad Jennings, but that's playing more to Washington's strengths, and you never want to do that. So, keep them on their heels. You run the ball occasionally, but this is another defense that you really just want to keep on passing on and passing on and passing on. Even if it's a quick hit passing game to avoid Ryan Kerrigan, Jason Hatcher as pass rushers, but that's really how you're going to beat this defense. I think that the Giants are the better team. They have a lot. I mean, Washington's a mess right now, on and off the field. They have a lot of distractions. I don't see them being able to pull out this win. The Giants just have better players, better leaders in place in order to. I mean, they're not a good team, but they're just a better team than this Washington team.
Yeah, I agree with you there. They're not necessarily a good team, but they're definitely a better team than the Redskins, even just on paper. Without looking at the whole mess that's going on behind the scenes, and that certainly doesn't help. So yeah, I agree with you. Giants are going to pull out the win here. Another division matchup, Dolphins at Patriots. Ryan Tannehill is playing good this year. Last week against the Baltimore Ravens, he played pretty well. I thought his struggle right now is red zone efficiency, and I think you can credit part of that to there not being any sort of really run threat in the red zone for the Dolphins, and at the same time, no go up and get it guy for the Dolphins in the red zone. So I don't entirely blame Tannehill there, but between the 20s, he's just killing people, and but against this Patriots defense, that's going to be tough. I mean, Revis, Browner, McCourty, Chandler Jones, Jamie Collins. There's talent everywhere on this New England defense. And despite Miami having some nice pieces on offense, Ryan Tannehill I think is a very good quarterback. Jarvis Landry's been good. Mike Wallace is good for a couple splash plays every now and then. Lamar Miller is a good space running back. But I think Miami as a whole, unless they get really creative, which I know Bill Lazor is capable of, unless they get really creative and just execute what they have to do, I think this is going to be a tough game for Miami on offense, overcoming this New England defense. On defense for the Miami Dolphins, last time they played, I know Cam Wake absolutely trashed Sebastian Vollmer, and he's been trashing tackles all year. He murdered Ricky Wagner last week, and I think he can certainly get to Vollmer again this week. He's going to be huge. They have other guys, Oliver Vernon. Um, there's another, I'm misplacing his name.
Randy Starks, Jared
No,
Odrick.
yes, Odrick. Odrick. I don't know how I forgot him, but yeah, Jared Odrick. Jelani Jenkins has come on strong as a linebacker this year. Brent Grimes, obviously, at corner. So they definitely have some pieces on defense, too. I don't think they're quite the New England defense, but there's certainly enough pieces here on Miami to think, they can shut down. They're going to be able to generate some pressure, and they're going to be able to hold down the receivers. But the big thing here is stopping Gronk. And, as talented as you can have all the talent that you want on defense, but Gronk has been playing outstanding this year. And I don't think no matter how you dice it, they're not going to be able to stop Gronk, and he's gonna be able to put up some yards and probably a touchdown or two against this Miami defense. Um, and But these division matchups are tough, and if I remember correctly, Miami came out and won the earlier matchup this year.
Yep.
And I'm not going to go out and say that they're going to win this week and do it again, but I think it's very, very likely that they could do it.
Yeah, I mean these divisional games are always unpredictable, but if I'm the Patriots on offense, like you said, I'm gonna use Gronk because I don't really like the matchup with these Patriot receivers and the Miami Dolphins defensive backs. Brent Grimes has been playing well. Jamar Taylor is a good player, and then they have that pass rush where you're really not going to be able to expose anything too far downfield. So that's really where you want to use Gronk and try to get a matchup with those linebackers who aren't bad, but they're not good enough to slow down Gronkowski, and that's really where I think this game's going to be won for the Patriots on offense. Just utilizing Gronk, running the ball a little bit, but like you touched on, the Miami Dolphins defensive line is very good, both pass rushing and stopping the run. So that's just being able to attack the intermediate passing game, with the best tight end in the league. That's a big advantage for the Patriots, and I think that's what they're going to need to do. On defense, like you said, the Miami Dolphins don't really have threats on their offense. They have some nice players. Charles Clay is a good player. Jarvis Landry is a good player, but I think that the talent that the Patriots have at defensive back with Darrelle Revis and Brandon Browner, Kyle Arrington, and Devin McCourty. I mean, these are all very, very good players, especially in their given roles. So it's going to be hard to get open against these guys with a guy like Mike Wallace, who drops everything you throw at him, and a guy like Brian Hartline, who basically just covers himself since he can't separate from anything. So you're really going to try to hope that you can get Jarvis Landry and Charles Clay working over the middle, and you're just going to have to trust them with the ball in the air. I mean, that's what Jarvis Landry is so good at, where he's not the best at getting separation, but if you throw him the ball, there's a decent chance he's going to come down with it, and that's really what they're going to be looking for in the passing game. Is you're really going to try to attack the middle of the field with your tight end and with your slot receiver, and you're going to try to keep on doing that and force the defense to try to come up. And once they come up, then you take a couple shots downfield with Mike Wallace and hope he catches the ball. As for running the ball, I think it's going to be difficult. Lamar Miller's a decent player, but against this Patriots defense, where the linebackers are playing so well with Dante Hightower and Jamie Collins, it's gonna be hard to get a running game going against them. But that's something that you're going to need to do to take some pressure off Tannehill. But I think that the way that they're going to win this game on offense is that they're going to try to attack the middle of the field. Hope they can get some good matchups with the receiver, tight end on a linebacker, or just trust guys like that. Trust Jarvis Landry with the ball in the air. Trust Charles Clay with the ball in the air, and I think that's what they're going to need to do. I think this game. I think this game is favorable. I'm sorry, I just got completely lost. I think this game is really favorable for the Patriots because the Patriots really have the guys to match up. They have the corners and they have the linebackers, and I think this is really going to go the Patriots' way because on defense they're just a much more talented team than the Miami Dolphins are on offense.
Yeah, I agree. The matchup at most positions definitely favors the Patriots, and unless the Patriots explode like they did last time they played the Dolphins, they should come out with a late season divisional win here. Next up, Raiders at the Chiefs, and if I'm not mistaken, the Raiders, one of their only 2 wins is over the Chiefs, and I could honestly see them doing it again because Derek Carr is coming in. Not that he was ever really bad this year. He's been solid for a rookie, but especially I think the past couple of weeks, he's proven what he can really do. And against this Chiefs defense, it's going to be on him to make things to create on his own because this Chiefs defensive front is going to get to Derek Carr. Justin Houston, Tom Mahaly, Dontari Poe. We say these guys every week, and they're going to get to Derek Carr. He's going to have to get away from these guys and find the open receiver downfield. And where that might come back to bite him, and he needs to be careful, is sometimes he has a tendency to get a little overzealous when he does that, and throw at guys that just quite simply aren't open. And I think he needs to settle down a little bit. And he did a good job of that last week. He just needs to settle down and make sure his guy's open if he wants to throw at him. Yeah, Latavius Murray. I don't think he's going to be able to run that well against the Chiefs front. So like I said, it's going to be on. A lot of this game is going to be on Derek Carr. And for a rookie, I trust Derek Carr for what he's going to be able to do. On defense, the Raiders, they're going to have to. I could see Andy Reid outthinking himself again and not giving Jamal Charles the carries that he needs. Because I heard, I think it was Jamal Charles was at like 9-point-something yards a carry last week. And didn't have enough carries. And Andy Reid even said himself, I should have given Charles more carries. So I could see him doing that again. What the Raiders need to do on defense is just keep Jamal Charles at bay, which is not easy because he's probably the best running back in the league, him or Le'Veon Bell. Keep him at bay, and it's going to be a lot on this front to hold off Jamal Charles and get to Alex Smith. And I think they can do that, with tackle. Justin Ellis has been good in the middle. Justin Tuck. Yeah, also Justin Tuck. I mean, they have decent guys up front. They have C.O. Moore running as a linebacker. So they have the guys to do what they need to do up front. You're going to have to put a little faith in this secondary that they can at least be average against these Kansas City receivers. And if I'm not mistaken, Alex Smith still hasn't thrown a touchdown to a single Kansas City receiver this year, which is a really weird stat. I don't know how that's possible. I don't know how you go 14 weeks through an NFL season and not throw a single touchdown to a receiver, but he's done it. So I think, keeping that in mind, the Raiders just have to the front has to be really good, and the secondary just has to make sure they don't make mistakes and don't get don't bite on just don't get too overconfident in their ability and let somebody get open too easily and let Smith look better than he is.
Yeah, I think for I called the Raiders beating the Chiefs last time they played each other, but this game I think there's too much on the line, and I think that the Chiefs being at home really helps them. On defense for the Chiefs, I think they're going to need to watch out for the run because the run really hurt them the last time. I mean, it's been hurting them over the past couple of weeks. Teams have really just been running up the Chiefs' throat, um, and that's something that they're going to need to really look out for because I think the Raiders are going to really want to do that again. So you're really going to load up the box because as good as Derek Carr has been for a rookie, there's no way getting around the fact that his receivers can't separate, and they're just not good. And you have a good set of corners, decent players in your secondary overall, at least comparing to what the Raiders have on offense with their passing game. So you're really trying to load up the box against this running game and forcing the Raiders to push the ball downfield and against these good corners with these bad receivers. And I think that's going to really help them because if you're forcing the ball downfield, you're also playing against another one of the Chiefs' strengths, which is their pass rush off the edge with Justin Houston and Tamba Hali. So I think that the defense is going to play very well this Sunday, just because one, they're at home, and two, I think they're going to play a lot smarter this time and not get burned by the run game, which they did last time. On offense for the Chiefs, it's going to be hard to run the ball, I think, because you have Justin Ellis, you have Antonio Smith, Justin Tuck, C.O. Moore, and then, of course, Khalil Mack, all of whom are very good run defenders, especially Mack and Moore. And I think they're going to cause issues in the running game, but they cannot discourage this Chiefs team from running the ball. That's what they need to stick to. You need to put the ball in the hands of your playmakers, and your playmaker is Jamaal Charles. So if he gets his carries, I think that this should be the Chiefs' game. But this is Andy Reid we're talking about, who is the king of not giving his running back carries, saying he's going to give his running back carries, and then not giving his running back carries. So they need to give the ball to him, because if they're putting this game in Alex Smith's hands against a decent Oakland front, then this is going to be a loss for the Chiefs. But I don't think it ends up that way. I think that Jamaal Charles is able to break off some big plays, and I think the Chiefs defense comes away with a big win at home.
I still think it could go either way, but I'll side with you on this one and think that, and Andy Reid learns from his mistakes from the last game and doesn't lose another key divisional matchup. Next up, Texans at the Colts. This could be a sneaky win for the Texans, honestly. Andrew Luck is coming off one of his worst games in a really long time, and that Texans defensive front is absolutely terrifying. I mean, J.J. Watt, Whitney Mercilus, Jared Crick, all these guys, and the Colts offensive line isn't that good. They don't have a running threat at all, really. I mean, I don't trust Boom Herron as anything more than an okay number 2 running back, so he's definitely not a number 1 that they're going to need. And I think, you're going to have to throw this game. The Colts are going to have to throw this game all on Andrew Luck, and not that he can't do it. I mean, he's shown time and time again that he can, but with as much pressure as the Texans are going to bring on defense, and then him coming off of a bad game, I think this is a chance for the Texans defense to force a lot of mistakes, get Luck off of his rhythm, and force him to make mistake, as he seems to be a streaky player like that. So the Texans defense it's going to be about getting pressure early and getting pressure often and forcing these mistakes. And I think that can certainly be the case on offense for the Texans. Uh, they've not been a great offense or anything, but they've been efficient, and they have Arian Foster's been really good when he's healthy. They have Nuke and they have Andre Johnson. Ryan Fitzpatrick is not a good quarterback, and I said this last week. He's of all the stopgap types in the league, he's probably the best one out there. And he's just done a good job at getting these guys the ball. But the problem with that is Vontae Davis and Greg Toller. Whoa, wait, Vontae Davis wasn't healthy last week.
No, he didn't play last week. I'm not sure about his status for this week, but even if
Yeah.
he is playing, he'll probably be banged up a little bit.
Yeah, so even even a little banged up Vontae Davis is still a good corner because he's been. I think you can make a case for him to be top three when he's been healthy this year. So you're playing against him and Greg Toller, and then it's not like there's not going to be some pressure in your face. Werner has been good, Mathis. So there's going to be there's a couple of pieces on this Colts defense that could cause some issues for the Texans offense, but I think the Texans offense is going to be efficient as they, have been all throughout the year, not put up a ton of points, but at the same time put up enough to let their defense go out and win a game for them. And I think that this is a game I'm going to call as an upset win for the Texans.
Yeah, I think that's a good call. Just with Vontae Davis hurt, and just how the Texans are playing right now on both sides of the ball, I think very possible that they're able to come away with a win. But I think that in order to win this game, the Colts need to force the ball into Ryan Fitzpatrick's hands to win this game. On defense, you're going to want to stack the box against the run. You need to stop Arian Foster, because if you're going to let Arian Foster beat you, you're going to lose the game, because he is really the key to that offense. You're going to force him to, he might get his numbers, but you're going to force him to get the ball to Andre Johnson and DeAndre Hopkins, and if he does a couple of times, so be it. You want to get beat by Ryan Fitzpatrick before you want to get beat by Arian Foster, because there's more of a chance of Arian Foster winning a game for the Texans than Ryan Fitzpatrick doing so. So you're loading up the box, and you're bringing pressure on passing plays, blitzing. You really want to try to force him to put the ball downfield, or try to force the ball into something, make mistakes. That's how you're going to win on defense. Even Vontae Davis is out. You're really trusting. Excuse me. You're really trusting how bad Ryan Fitzpatrick can be in order to help you win this game on defense. As for on offense, despite the presence of J.J. Watt on the other side of the ball, I think you're still going to be wanting to pass the ball a lot. These Texans corners as a whole aren't very good. So you're going to try to get Andrew Luck on the run, have him passing while he's moving outside of the pocket. He's very good at that. And have him trying to get the ball to T.Y. Hilton and Dante Moncrief downfield, because if he's able to do that, then the Colts should be able to put up plenty of points, regardless of their running game, as they've been doing this entire year, because T.Y. Hilton has been outstanding this year, and Dante Moncrief has really, really been good the past couple weeks. And I think that they need to take advantage of the speed that they have on offense and attack these mediocre Texans corners. Watt's going to be an issue, but you're really going to need to use your running back and your tight end to chip him and do anything to slow him down at the very least. The Jaguars actually last week, despite Watt having a good statistical day, he wasn't getting as consistent pressure as he normally does, and I think and that helped with giving help in the passing game, having extra blockers take him on. get your quarterback moving while he's passing. Doing stuff like that is going to slow him down. You're not going to be able to completely stop him, but that's the best you can do. And try to push the ball downfield to the speed that you have on offense. So by forcing a shootout, that's how you're going to be able to win the game, because you're going to be forcing the Texans to pass on the other side of the ball, which they can't sustain at the level that the Colts can. So I think the Colts can win in a high-scoring game, but realistically, I think the presence of Watt and I think the balance that the Texans have on offense right now, I think the Texans should be able to pull an upset win.
Yeah, and being as bad as they were last year and mediocre for the most part this year, that's definitely an upset pick. But I rarely do upset picks, but I think that's one I like, especially this week. Next up, Bengals at Browns. I'm just
Johnny
not.
Manziel game.
Yes, it is the coveted Manziel game.
The biggest
Finally.
game of the week.
Easily. I'll start on defense with the Bengals then. What do they have to do to stop Johnny Manziel? Knowing Kyle Shanahan, what he's going to do is he's going to give a lot of zone stretch looks, and he's going to do a lot of rollouts based off of that look. So you're not going to know quite what you're getting out of those looks. So what's going to be key for the Bengals is just keeping true to your assignment and not biting on the run when it's a rollout, and letting Johnny have all this free space in front of him. So for the Bengals, it's just going to be playing assignment football and containing the edge and not letting Johnny do what he does with his feet. You just can't let him do that. You have to force Manziel to pass. And as much as I liked him as a prospect, we all knew he was going to be a raw passer coming into the league. And in the little flashes we've seen from preseason and the little bit he's played this year, that's still kind of evident. And like I just said, you're going to have to force Manziel to pass. And I think that even if you do force him to pass, Shanahan is going to be able to create space for his receivers. That's something in my article that I noted that he's able to do. He's able to give looks. He's able to, I know he likes to run up the seams a lot and get guys crossing there. And, he's going to be able to create space for his guys. So it's going to be about forcing Johnny to make those throws, and I'm just not confident that he can do that right now. So that's going to be key for the Bengals on defense. On offense, I think it's going to be feed Jeremy Hill. Well, yeah. It's going to be feed these running backs and get the running game going against this Browns front, and just not put the game in Andy Dalton's hands, because you don't want to do that, especially against a Browns secondary of Justin Gilbert, Joe Hayden, Tashawn Gibson. As talented as Mohamed Sanu and A.J. Green are, that's a counter talent that the Browns have, and you don't want to force Andy Dalton to be the decider in that matchup. So it's going to be about just giving Dalton comfort. And especially, if you're making him drop back to pass, you have guys like Paul Kruger, Kiki Mingo getting at Andy Dalton, and you don't want that either. So it's going to be a lot about running the ball and just letting Andy Dalton be comfortable when he has to go back to pass, that he's not going to have 6 rushers in his face every time. So ultimately, I think that the Browns are a better team overall, and I think a lot hinges on Johnny's shoulders, and I don't know if I'm confident enough in him yet to give the Browns the win, though. So
yeah, I think for the okay, let me just say something. It doesn't matter what you thought about Johnny Manziel before the draft or what you thought about him in college. We're all Johnny Manziel fans now. We just have to accept it. And I think that Shanahan's going to do a good job of keeping him comfortable this game and really putting him in a position to succeed. Because first of all, this Bengals front outside of Carlos Dunlap is not good. You know, Geno Atkins is still hurting. Demata Pico is horrible. Robert Gaithers and Margus Hunt are both bad. The linebackers are bad. Vontaze is out. So you're going to be able to run the ball fairly well against this Bengals defensive front with Terrence West and Isaiah Crowell. And I think Shanahan's really going to want to do that, and he's going to be running the ball quite a bit, and really keeping Johnny comfortable. And you know, Shanahan, at least with Hoyer and what he did while he was in Washington, he loves working off of play action, and I think Manziel's going to have plenty of opportunities to work off of play action over the course of the game, and I think that Shanahan's going to do a great job of getting his playmakers, Taylor Gabriel, Andrew Hawkins, Josh Gordon. I think he's going to do a great job of getting them open. And I think Manziel's going to be able to hit, he's going to have a couple of splash plays over the course of the day. Is he going to have a perfect day? I don't think so, because this is his rookie debut. But I think he's going to do enough to help the offense put points on the board, along with a very powerful running game. As for the defense, I think that the Browns' defense overall has had issues stopping the run this entire season. So, like you said, the Bengals are going to want to use their running game over the course of the day to try to beat this Browns defense, because it's going to be really hard to pass on them, because the Browns are doing a good job rushing the passer, and their corners are playing very well. So I think you're really going to want to play the run if you're the Browns for most of the game, because you have to trust Joe Hayden covering A.J. Green. You have to trust Quan Williams covering Marvin Jones or Mohamed Sanu, and I think that they're up to those assignments. I think that they're playing very good football right now, and Joe Hayden always has his best games against the Bengals. So you're really putting your stock in stopping the run, and if Andy Dalton and putting the ball in the hands of Andy Dalton, I don't think that Andy Dalton can win a game by himself, and that's exactly what the Browns are going to have to force him to do.
Yeah, I think this game definitely comes down to getting each quarterback uncomfortable. And even though I think Kyle Shanahan is going to do a better job at keeping Manziel comfortable, I still, as much as I liked him in college and as much as I want to root for him, I just think that he's going to make a few too many rookie mistakes for.
You're a hater, man.
I love the guy, but I can't give him the win. Next, we have Jaguars at Ravens. Jaguars on offense, what they're going to have to do against the Baltimore defense is they're going to have to throw like every single team that plays against the Ravens. Our secondaries are quite frankly terrible, and I've said this every week. Really, the only guy I trust with Jimmy Smith out is Will Hill. All the corners are bad. Darius Webb is even bad after the injury. So I don't trust him. So they're going to have to definitely attack the boundaries. And really, the tough assignment there is keeping Blake Bortles clean, because Elvis Dumervil has had an absolutely phenomenal season rushing the edge. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's top 5 in sack totals right now. And not that numbers are everything, but he's even been a disruptionist production type guy, and he's just been everywhere all year, wreaking havoc coming off the right tackle side. And then even off the left tackle side, Terrell Suggs has been having another just really good year. And even then, Pernell McPhee, when he gets in the game, he's been a really productive pass rusher. Timmy Jernigan filling in for Haloti Ngata was a good pass rusher last week. He had 2 sacks, if I remember correctly. So the Ravens' defensive front is definitely going to be an issue for not a bad Jaguars line, but not a good Jaguars line. And I know Denard Robinson is out for the year, so it's going to be tough to get much of a run game going for Jacksonville, because the Ravens' front is also good at stopping the run with Darrell Smith, C.J. Mosley at linebacker, Chris Canty's a good run defender, Brandon Williams is a good defender. Terrell Suggs has been a phenomenal run defender on the edge. So yeah, for the Jaguars, it's going to be about attacking the perimeter, but I just don't know if I trust Blake Bortles enough to be able to throw against even this secondary that well. On the flip side, I know Aaron Colvin has been really good these past 2 weeks on in the Jaguars secondary, uh, but as a whole, I think what's going to be big for the Jaguars is not giving up too much over the middle. And I know last week the Ravens were killing Miami with some crossers and stuff like that to both the Smiths. So I think Gary Kubiak could try to replicate that type of success, and it's going to be big for the Jaguars to not let that happen. And it's also going to be big for the Jaguars to not let Forsett get going, because if you let Forsett get going, that's when Flacco gets comfortable. And if you watched Flacco last week, he was really comfortable, all except one ugly red zone throw. But other than that, he was dealing against a even more talented Miami defense. So, like I said, it's going to be huge for uh, Jacksonville to both control the trenches and make sure that the middle of the field is locked down. But I'm just not confident in Jacksonville on either side of the ball to come away with the win against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think that for the Ravens on defense, um, they really don't need to do anything special to slow down or just stop this Jacksonville offense. The Jaguars have a ton of issues on the edges of their offensive line with Luke Jokel, and I'm not even sure who's starting at the other offensive tackle spot right now because I'm pretty sure Pastore is injured, but even before he was injured, he was playing poorly. But you have Terrell Suggs, you have Elvis Dumervil, Brandon Williams, and Haloti Ngata have been playing very well this year in the middle of that defense, and I think that in order to stop or at the very most slow down the passing game, you can really just use your front four to get pressure, and I think they're going to do a fine job of doing that, especially off the edges with how good Suggs and Dumervil have been this season. As for the running game, I wouldn't really worry that much about the running game, considering Denard Robinson's out for the season, and Toby Gerhart's really nothing special. I think that the Jaguars have some nice pieces along the inside of their offensive line. Brandon Linder, Zane Beadles, both have been playing pretty well as of late, and I think that that's worth noting, but overall, I don't see them establishing a good running game against a talented defensive front like what the Ravens have, and I think the Ravens really just have to trust their guys up front to stop that. And against the pass, you're not bringing any guys out of coverage in order to bring pressure. I think this is a really simple, defensive game plan where you're really just letting your guys rush. Because when you're bringing guys out of coverage, you could be playing to Blake Bortles' strengths, and if they find a matchup one-on-one down the field that they like, Bortles is the type of quarterback who wants to and can expose those matchups down the field, and I think I think that's what the Jaguars are really going to try to do on offense is get down the field against a rough Ravens secondary. So the Ravens really want to depend on their front four to create a pass rush and then depend on their back seven to get good coverage, which I don't think it's going to be very hard to do. On offense for the Ravens, like you said, Joe Flacco's been playing very good football, especially the past 4 weeks, and I think that has a lot to do with how good the running game's been overall, and they need to keep on with that running game because despite having a few good players up front, Senderick Marks, Telvin Smith, overall this Jacksonville front isn't great, especially with stopping the run, and I think that's something that they're going to really want to get after is use Justin Forsett and just keep on running the ball. The Ravens' offensive line has been playing very well run blocking this year, and I think that's something they're going to need to keep on going with. And when you've established that running game and you're forcing the Jaguars to try to come up and stop it, that's when you take shots down the field with Torrey Smith and Steve Smith. And I think those plays are really going to be there because the Jaguars have had issues over the course of the season defending that deep pass with Aaron Colvin playing. Aaron Colvin's been playing very well for them, but that's really only one player, and you can really expose different matchups outside of him. And I think that's what the Ravens are going to want to do is really run the ball and then take those shots downfield when they have them.
Yeah, like you were saying, this Ravens team is so clearly more talented than the Jaguars team, and it's not really going to be they're not going to have to concoct some special game plan. It's going to be a rather simple game that they should be able to come away with a pretty easy win. Next up, Packers at Bills. Aaron Rodgers is playing probably, arguably the best football I've seen in my entire lifetime, and but this is going to be a fun matchup for him because this is a very good Bills defense, especially up front with Marcel Darius, Mario Williams, and there's a couple more guys. And the Packers' offensive line is not great, but I think they're going to be okay enough to where Aaron Rodgers isn't pressured too much. And even when he is, we all know Aaron Rodgers has this just innate ability to avoid pressure, and he's going to be able to do that, and he's going to be able to escape the pocket when he has to and just find guys that are open. And Jordy Nelson has somehow been really open against every single team in the NFL this year. Randall Cobb has been good this year. Devontae Adams when he's on the field. So Green Bay has all these weapons. Aaron Rodgers is on fire. The offensive line is good enough. If the Bills defense gets scared of Rodgers and starts dropping guys into coverage, it's very likely. Eddie Lacy could get going. So there's so much firepower in this Packers offense that you just know they're going to be able to put up points. On the other side of the ball, Clay Matthews is doing really well in his weird kind of hybrid role thing, and Julius Peppers, Mike Daniels, Dayton Jones. So they have all these pieces on defense against what a Bills offense that should be good, but they have Kyle Orton and E.J. Manuel as their options at quarterback, and so long as those two are throwing the ball to Sammy Watkins, Robert Woods, Mike Williams, as good as all those guys are, they're just not going to be able to be made to their full potential against what is a solid Packers secondary, especially if Clinton Dix can have a good game. I know he's been a little up and down this year. So what the Packers are going to have to do on defense is just get to the quarterback, which I think they're certainly capable of. They definitely have guys up front. It's just going to, make that mediocre quarterback make mistakes, and the Kyle Orton's shown that he'll do that. So I think, like the last game we just talked about, this should be a relatively easy win for the Packers.
You say that, but the Bills were one of the only teams to really cause issues for Peyton Manning, and I think that they're built to at least make Rodgers look somewhat human, which is helpful. I think on defense, it's important to realize, and defensive coordinators really are having an issue with this basic concept. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks in the league against the blitz, and that's been consistent over the past couple years. He's just so good against it, and defensive coordinators just keep on blitzing him, and it's so stupid. One of his worst games of the season, while the Seahawks are a talented overall team, came against a Seahawks team that is able to get pressure with their front four, and they were able to limit Rodgers, and they came with a win. But, these defensive coordinators over the course of the season have been blitzing him, and he's been killing them. And it's important that you're able to get pressure with your front guys, and I feel like I've been saying that for almost every team, but it holds true with a lot of these quarterbacks, where you're going to try to get pressure with just your base sets, and I think the Bills can really do that. I mean, the Bills' defensive linemen have been ridiculous this year. I mean, they have three guys on their defensive line who have more than 10 sacks. Like that's, I mean, numbers are weird, but that's ridiculous any way you look at it. And then they have Kyle Williams, who has 7 sacks. And I mean, you have Mario Williams, Marcel Darius, Jerry Hughes, Kyle Williams. I mean, those are all very, very, very good players. And you're really going to need to depend on them for this game to just get pressure on their own. And I think that they're really capable of doing that. I think this Packers offensive line has been playing well for the most part, but they haven't faced the defensive line as good as this one yet. And I think that it's going to really cause issues for them. And as long as they're able to get pressure with their front four, you know, they have some talented guys in their secondary with Duke Williams and Stephon Gilmore, and Corey Graham, and I think that they should be able to hold their own. I think they're going to give up big plays. It's hard not to, but I think they're going to limit it more than we've seen teams do in the past couple of weeks. On offense for the Bills, I think it's really important that they're going to be running the ball. This Packers defense is not very good stopping the run. And when you have a quarterback like Kyle Orton, you really have to depend on your running game in order to stop the defense, in order to move on the defense. So that they're really going to need to put their faith in the hands of the running back. And by doing so and forcing the Packers defense to honor the run, that's when you try to get the ball to Sammy Watkins and get the ball to Robert Woods, both of whom have been playing very well this season. And we saw the last game what good receivers can do to this Packers offense, this Packers defense. So you need to basically not trust Kyle Orton at all and really simplify things for Kyle Orton in the passing game. Run the ball a lot, and then on defense, you really want to try to get pressure with your front four and hope and pray that they're able to disrupt in the passing game, disrupt Rodgers and kind of get him off rhythm to help these corners out. Good corners overall, but still, any DBs that are going up against Aaron Rodgers and that receiving corps are going to need all the help they can get.
Yeah, and you bring up a lot of good points about what the Bills need to do, especially with blitzing Rodgers versus not blitzing Rodgers. But I think I'm just a little too confident in how the Packers have been playing lately to think that they won't walk away with a win pretty handily. Up next, we have Bucks versus Panthers, and Bucks got a little lucky this week. Cam Newton got in that car accident, and that was awful. Good thing he's okay. I think it was 2 broken bones in his back, similar
Yeah,
to
he fractured. Yeah, which I'm not a doctor, so I don't know how badly that affects him going forward. But I know he's out for this week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I heard it was a lot similar to the Roma injury, and yeah, I just know he was out this week in that Derek Anderson starter. So the Bucks got lucky there. And when you look at, I'll start on defense for the Bucks. When you look at the Panthers' offense, outside of Cam Newton, it was not that good. Kelvin Benjamin was, a splash player, and Ryan Khalil was a good offensive lineman, and John Stewart had a great game last week. But for the most part, running backs haven't been productive. And when you take away a guy that's as dynamic as Cam Newton and put in Derek Anderson, the Bucks' job just becomes a lot easier. I think the big thing is going to be the Panthers are going to want to force the ball to Kelvin Benjamin, especially with having a much less competent quarterback at the helm. And you're not going to want Alteron Werner on Kelvin Benjamin, even though I don't think Kelvin Benjamin uses his size all that well. If you just throw the ball if you force jump ball situations to Kelvin Benjamin, the Panthers can win there, and Alteron Werner's not going to win those ever. So what you have to do is just isolate Kelvin Benjamin and make sure he doesn't get in any one-on-one jump ball situations, um, and make sure the running backs don't explode like they did last week. Is Levante David healthy?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah. With him, that'll definitely be a lot easier then. So you have him. You have a really weird Bucks defensive front that has some star players, but then at the same time the rest of them are pretty mediocre. But if those couple of star players can have a good game against what's not a good Carolina offense, they can create enough disruption to just completely derail this Panthers offense. On the offensive side of the ball for the Bucks, Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson have just been a terrifying duo, despite whoever the hell has been a quarterback, and especially against what is not a very good Panthers secondary. I know Josh Norman has actually been playing a little better than people are giving him credit for, but against guys like Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, I just don't trust him to be able to do enough, especially on his own. And I think that, even with Josh McCown at quarterback, the Bucks will be able to comfortably pass the ball around and get yards. Because Mike Evans and Vincent Jackson just do such a good job using their body, not only at catch points, but creating separation in small spaces, stuff like that. So I think what's just going to be key for the Bucks is just do what they've been doing and get those to the ball as often as they can, and just and instead of asserting the run or asserting the pass, well, setting up the pass with the run, you want to set up the run with the pass, and that's a little scary with Josh McCown at quarterback, but like I've been saying with these two receivers against the secondary, I'm comfortable with that. And I think with Cam Newton not being able to play, I think the Bucks can come out and win this game.
Yeah, I think you're right. Obviously, having Derek Anderson at quarterback really changes things. So your only hope on offense for the Panthers is running the ball, hoping that Jonathan Stewart can carry over some momentum from last week into this one and try to get him going. Get him 20 carries if he can handle that, and that's what you're really going to need to do over the course of the game, because even with a suspect defense, corners wise and defensive backs wise overall for the Bucks. I don't like Derek Anderson, and I don't like these receivers at all for the Panthers. So your best chance working against against the Bucks is trying to run the ball as much as you can, and then utilizing Greg Olsen in the passing game, because that's really their trump card, is they have this dynamic player at tight end that they can really use in the slot, in line. However, get him matched up on those safeties, or get him matched up on Mason Foster. I think that's a matchup you really want to take advantage of in the passing game, and that's something that that's a matchup that I'm sure Derek Anderson is going to want to take. Now, it's worth noting that the last time the Panthers and the Bucks played, Derek Anderson was starting, and the Bucks were able to win. The Panthers were able to win. So I think that they're going to really want to depend on the run, but I think Anderson can do enough in the passing game to put up some points. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly back to that, I think that was the Week 1 game. I believe that Anderson was able to get the ball to Kelvin Benjamin a few times, and he was able to make enough plays that helped the Panthers win that game. On defense for the Panthers, it's a little bit more tricky, because it's not like this is a dynamic offense that the Bucks have, but like you said, they have two dynamic receivers with Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans, and Mike Evans has just been outstanding especially the last month, like 2 months. He's just been something else, and he's going to be really really hard to defend. And I think that I'd much rather, just the way that they're both playing, I would much rather force the offense to run through Vincent Jackson rather than run through Mike Evans at this point, because Vincent Jackson hasn't been playing poorly, but he hasn't been playing great, and Mike Evans has been playing great, and I don't, and you don't want a situation where you're letting him run free. They do a good job of getting him, matched up with linebackers and stuff like that. You do not want that. You really don't want that at all. So you have to your defensive scheme needs to revolve around stopping Mike Evans and having Josh McCown force the ball to Vincent Jackson, and then also depending on your front seven to stop the running game. Luke Kuechly and Thomas Davis, who've both been playing well this year, along with Kwan Short at defensive tackle. So you really want to depend on those three to stop the run, and then hope that the passing game runs through Vincent Jackson to give yourself a chance to win. Overall, I don't think that the Panthers come away with the win here. I think the Bucs just match up too well with where the Panthers have weaknesses, which is virtually everywhere. The prospect of Gerald McCoy going up against Amini Satalu, the Panthers guard, is just terrifying, and I think that McCoy is going to have a huge game against an immobile Derek Anderson compared to what the Panthers have in Cam Newton. So I think the Bucs do actually get the win here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a game, and if the Panthers lose, I think it pretty much rips them out of the NFC South title contention. Not that that's a prestigious title at all, but that definitely takes them out of contention, especially it being a division loss. Next up, Jets at Titans. I think the Jets are quote-unquote lucky again because Mettenberger is out for the year, if I remember correctly. And so I believe the Titans are rolling with Jake Locker, and Jake Locker, when he played this year, was absolutely awful. So what the Jets are going to need to do is just make him uncomfortable. He started the year and he was bad, and they benched him. And I think he got injured, and then they just didn't give him the starting job again. So he's back. I think his confidence is shot at this point. He's had another injury this year, so he's not going to be very good. So the key is just going to, get him uncomfortable and force him to make mistakes. And not that the Jets have that many pieces, but they have a few interior rushers in Mo Wilkerson and Sheldon Richardson. And then Walls is a good cornerback that can at least, do a decent job at covering whoever it is that he's covering, whether it be, Justin Hunter or Kendall Wright or Nate Washington. But regardless, yeah, like I said, the Jets defense is just going to have to get pressure on Locker. And I think that's something that they may struggle to do only because the Titans' offensive line is so good. And, ideally you'd want to see the Titans keep Locker on the move, but I don't know if that's going to end up being the case. They might just throw him into the Wolves and leave him in the pocket, which I think would be a mistake. On the other side of the ball, you have what's still just a dysfunctional Jets offense, and I don't trust any of the skill players to have a great game. Decker is a good receiver, but I think Jason McCourty, even though he's not a great cornerback, has been a consistently solid cornerback and can deal with Eric Decker. The Jets don't really have anyone that good up front, and Jarrell Casey is going to be a menace and force Geno Smith to get uncomfortable. And one problem I've always had with Geno Smith is how unaware he usually is in the pocket and how poorly he does with moving around pressure. And I think if Jarrell Casey can get going, that's going to be a major problem for Geno Smith. So what the Jets are going to want to do on offense is we'll get the ball to Chris Ivory and and try to let Geno get as comfortable as he can. And you don't want, even though I just said Geno Smith isn't all that aware or that great in the pocket, he's not a guy that you want out mobile and on rollouts and stuff like that either. So what you just want to do is run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, and make him as comfortable as he can when he has to go back in the pocket. But I'm just not comfortable in really any facet of the game in the Jets to come away with the win.
Yeah, man, this is gonna be an ugly. This is gonna be a really really gross game to watch, and for everyone who is watching it, my prayers are with you because you're gonna need them. I think if the Titans are gonna win, which they might just end in a tie. But if they're gonna win, they have to win with Delaney Walker. I think that's their best matchup that they have, and of course that means passing the ball, which is a terrifying prospect with the way Jake Locker has been playing this year. But Delaney Walker is a good tight end, very athletic, and he's been playing well this year. And I think that against Jets linebackers, especially David Harris, who can't cover, I think that's where you really want to expose the Jets, and you want to utilize him, and you want to try to get Kendall Wright some good matchups in the slot, and those are the two guys you're going to really want to target. I think that you're not going to try to take shots downfield that much because, one, Jake Locker is Jake Locker, and two, Darren Walls has been playing pretty well this year, and Justin Hunter has been awful this year. So you're really going to try to attack the middle of the field and hope you can get something going with your running game. And Bishop Sankey this year, in my opinion, I think he's been good. His numbers don't look good, but that's because defenses are really doing. I mean, they have no respect for the passing game, so they're doing everything to stop the running game. And that, combined with how good the Jets' front three is, it's going to be really hard for Bishop Sankey to get anything going. But I think you're going to still need to try to get the ball in his hands over the course of the game, just to keep the ball out of Jake Locker's hands. So I think that they're going to need to try to run the ball, establish something against this Jets defense, and when they can, take advantage of those matchups in the middle of the field with the linebackers and what you have in your slot receivers and your tight ends. On defense for the Titans, I'd be pretty confident in the way that the Titans match up defensively because they have some. I mean, Jarrell Casey's a very, very good interior defensive lineman, very disruptive, very good pass rusher, and same thing with Derek Morgan out on the edge. He's a very good pass rusher, and I think that both of them are going to have a field day with this Jets offensive line, which outside of Nick Mangold is just not very good, and I think that both of them should have pretty big days. And when you are able to get pressure on Geno Smith, everything kind of gets really ugly. And even in a situation where they're going to try to keep the ball out of Geno Smith's hands, the Titans defense has Avery Williamson playing at linebacker now, and he's been playing very, very well overall, and he's been a good run defender, and I think that he's going to make a big impact on that running game. Now, of course, we have to remember that this is the Chris Johnson revenge game, so we might get something like over 4 yards per carry out of him, which might be a little exciting, but I think this is going to be a really ugly game. I think that maybe the Titans win because they're more talented on defense than the Jets are on offense. I think they'll be able to stop the run just fine and get enough pressure on Geno Smith to make him commit some pretty egregious mistakes and really not worry about who you have downfield at all because just the pressure alone kind of takes Geno Smith out of the game. So That's my prediction. It's going to be an ugly game, though.
Yeah, I this is going to be an awful, awful game, no matter who wins. But yeah, I probably give the edge to the Titans just because they're a bit more well-rounded of a team. Broncos Chargers is up next, and Peyton Manning. I mean, he's still good, but he's fallen off a little bit, and I don't think there's much denying that. And uh, this isn't a great Chargers defense, but there's a few pieces that I think could give issues to Peyton Manning. Up front, you have guys like Corey Liuget and Melvin Ingram who can generate pressure. And like you were saying with the Bills matchup, and then you look at the Rams matchup that the Broncos had. Um, Pressure is getting to Peyton Manning, so if those two especially can generate pressure, it's going to be tough on Manning. So there's going to have to be, I think, a little extra help. The running backs are definitely going to have to do very good in pass protection, and you're going to have to get a lot of quick passing, uh, quick routes out to Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas and Wes Welker, and you're going to have to let them create yards on their own as opposed to letting them go down the field and Peyton Manning hitting them. And not that they're not going to be able to do that at all, but I think that the way this Chargers defense is set up, you're gonna have an easier job of running the ball and throwing shorter passes. On defense, uh, let's see. I trust this Broncos defense. They have good guys up front in DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, Terrence Knighton, um, and against the Chargers, who they started the year hot, especially Philip Rivers, and I'm still not counting. I'm not counting Philip Rivers out at all, but it's going to be forcing him to make mistakes. And I think Rivers is weird in the sense that I think he does a very good job of controlling games, but at the same time, he has a tendency to kind of try to do too much sometimes. And I think he like I'm trying to say, he falls somewhere in the middle there. And I think if you could get him to be the guy that makes mistakes, this is a Broncos secondary that's very talented, is going to be able to make the most of those opportunities. So I think this comes down to making sure you can stop the passing offense, and in doing that, you're going to have to slow down probably Ryan Matthews, who he's good when he's healthy. It's just that he usually isn't. So overall, I think that the big matchup here on the Broncos defense is against uh, the Chargers receivers. Keenan Allen, Eddie Royal, and then more specifically the tight ends in Green and Gates. And I think covering over the middle is going to be huge, especially for T.J. Ward for the Broncos defense. And I think if they can do that, especially for Rivers, um, if they can control the middle of the field and then just allow the talented corners that they have to play on the receivers, I think Rivers is going to have a hard time throwing the ball. And that's how the Broncos are going to be able to come away with a win.
Yeah, I think that on offense for the Chargers, I think they're going to really need to establish a quick hit passing game. Get Keenan Allen working underneath, three-step drops, because if you're going to try to take shots down the field with this this Chargers this Broncos defense, you're going to have a really hard time, because the Broncos defense has a ton of talent up front. DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, Malik Jackson, guys who can generate a lot of pressure. And for a really bad San Diego Chargers offensive line, it's going to be difficult for them to establish anything downfield consistently over the course of the game. So they're really going to take advantage of the quick hit passing game. get Keenan Allen on those short routes that he's so good at. You got him matched up against Aqib Talib, who has his issues with quicker receivers, which Keenan Allen can really do, running those type of routes. So I think that's really what you're going to want to do on um, on offense. Obviously, you're going to try to run the ball, but it's going to be hard to consistently run and get a lot of big plays against this Denver front. But you're going to try to run the ball, get Phillip Rivers into a good rhythm, and as soon as you are able to get him into a good rhythm, that's when you might want to start taking shots. But if the Broncos are able to get into his head early, get hits on him, then it's going to be a long day. As for on defense for the Chargers, I think that, like you said, I think they're going to really need to just rush the passer a lot better, and really try not to take guys out of coverage to do so. I mean, they have guys like Corey Liuget. Dwight Freeney's been playing good football. Jeremiah Tawachu has been rushing the passer very well. They're just not using him on the field a lot, which I don't really get. Melvin Ingram's been playing well. So it's about getting your athletes on the field, and allowing them to rush the passer, which I think they have a lot of guys to do so with. And as for their secondary, they have to pray that Brandon Flowers can make a bounce back, because he's coming off a pretty rough game. So he really needs to bounce back, regardless of who he's covering. Just in terms of matchups, he probably matches up best with Emmanuel Sanders. I wouldn't really trust a smaller corner like him on Demaryius Thomas. So you probably have him on Emmanuel Sanders, and then then have a guy like Sharice Wright cover, which is terrifying. But having a guy like Sharice Wright covering Demaryius Thomas with Eric Weddle over the top, and I think that's probably your best chances of stopping the Broncos passing game. And as for their rushing game with C.J. Anderson, which has been so successful recently, you're going to really need to depend on your front seven to stop that. Manti Te'o, Ryan Carruthers, guys who are good at coming up and stopping the run, and they're going to really need to depend on those guys, because you can't stack up against Peyton Manning. And Peyton Manning hasn't been playing like Peyton Manning recently, but he's still, to some degree, Peyton Manning, and with the weapons that he has on offense, you're still going to be playing to stop the pass, and you'd rather the run beat you than the pass in this situation.
Yeah. Being a divisional game between, if the Chargers win this game, I think if they win this game and win the rest of their games, I think they have a shot at winning the division. And, they could come out and do that because of how high stakes this game is, but ultimately I see the Broncos winning because they just win more of the matchups. Next up is Vikings at the Lions, or at Lions. I'm definitely Team Teddy, and on offense, despite I love Teddy Bridgewater, but he is going to have a tough day, because the Vikings offensive line is absolutely terrible, and they're playing against one of the best defensive lines in the league, in Fairley, Sue, Ansah. Ansah's been one of the best edge rushers in the league for most of this year. And then he's throwing into a secondary with Darius Slay and Rasheed Mathis. So Teddy's going to have a rough day. So what you're going to have to do for him is get him comfortable. But I just don't see that happening, because I don't think that you're going to be able to run the ball very successfully against this Lions defense. And I don't think that you're going to be able to rely solely on Teddy Bridgewater. Not because then that's not a full indictment on him, but he's a rookie. He's throwing against two very talented cornerbacks, and he's going to have one of the best defensive lines in his face for probably most of the game. So I see the Vikings offense just losing in absolutely every facet. of the game. On the flip side, their defense has just as much potential. Mike Zimmer has done a really good job with that defense. The front is absolutely terrifying with Griffin, Robeson, um, Floyd, Anthony Barr. They have all these guys up front, and then you have Xavier Rhodes, who is a type that I think, not that anybody's ever really going to shut down Calvin Johnson. Like, you can't bet on that, but I think Rhodes is going to be able to do a good job against Calvin Johnson and uh, keep him at bay as much as possible. And then you can allow Harrison Smith to more keep an eye over the middle, dealing with Golden Tate and the tight end. So I think that this is a game that the Vikings have to win on defense, but I think that Stafford. I don't know because both of these offenses are going to struggle with against the defenses. I don't think I trust the Vikings offense enough, especially with a rookie quarterback, to come out and win this game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Lions really don't have to do anything special on defense. They have such a talented front four, and like you said, the Vikings offensive line is so bad. So you're really just going to be allowing them to pin their ears back and rush the passer, especially in a situation where the Vikings don't really have a running game with Jerick McKinnon out. So you're really going to try to get after it. And as good as Teddy has been over the season and how good he was in college in terms of handling pressure, I think it's going to be too much. And that coupled with how poorly his receivers are playing overall, I think that it's going to be pretty easy to stop the Vikings offense. I think the only thing you're really going to worry about is maybe Kyle Rudolph and how he's going to be doing in the passing game. But even then, I don't see him. I feel like DeAndre Levy is good enough. He's very good in terms of being a coverage linebacker to slow down anything over the middle of the field. So I wouldn't really worry about anything like anything on defense for the Lions. On offense, like you said, I think that this is going to be a defensive game because Xavier Rhodes has been playing very well. Josh Robinson has been having a good season. Harrison Smith is playing well, and the Vikings have a ton of players up front. Anthony Barr, Brian Robeson, Everson Griffin, Sharif Floyd, all of them are very well. All of them can rush the passer. And that's something you got to worry about with Stafford, who's such a hot and cold quarterback. So I think what you're really going to try to do is you're going to try to you're just going to try to open up against the middle of the field with Golden Tate and try to get him working underneath against Captain Munnerlyn, who's probably the weakest link in that secondary among the corners. So you're going to try to get that going and hope that creates enough of an issue where the Vikings are trying to move guys around to slow down Golden Tate, and if they're doing that, that's when you start targeting Calvin Johnson. Obviously, you want to get Calvin Johnson involved, over the course of the game, but in a when you have him against a guy like Xavier Rhodes, who is playing so well, you don't want to bank your entire offense off of how good Calvin Johnson is being. You'd rather just attack the weakest link, which is Captain Munnerlyn, and based on how good Golden Tate is playing this season, I think that should be a matchup that they're going to want to expose. I think the Vikings win. I think the Lions win this game because they have more talent on offense to counter a good defense, while the Vikings do not have enough talent on offense to counter a very good defense.
I'm in complete agreement. It's going to be a very defensive game, like you said, but and again, like you said, there's more that the Lions can do and are capable of on offense for them to come out and win this game. Next up, we have the bitter rivalry between the 49ers and the Seahawks. And the 49ers are in shambles, it seems, and it doesn't even seem like it's all on the field stuff. There's sort of a sense that Harbaugh's lost the locker room and all this stuff. But Kaepernick has been absolutely awful the past 2 weeks. and against what's even when people thought he was good, and I still think there's an argument that he is. And Seattle has always been his kryptonite. And coming off of two bad games, one against the Raiders of all teams, losing to them, going into Seattle is Kaepernick is going to struggle. 49ers offense isn't going to be able to put up points against arguably the most talented defense in the league. Um, if they want what they have to do to win is force the ball on the ground, and that's not going to be easy against this Seattle defense. But you're going to have to assert yourself on the ground, and then get Kaepernick mobile and spread the defense out a little bit, and hope that someone blows an assignment somewhere over the middle, and that someone like Michael Crabtree or Stevie Johnson can create some yards. Um, but overall, I see the 49ers offense definitely struggling a lot. On the flip side of the ball, the 49ers are going to be able to create pressure with guys like Lynch and how am I? Oh, Aldon Smith. I don't know how I was forgetting his name for so long. They're going to be able to create pressure. Chris Borland is playing really well as an inside linebacker. What they're going to have to do is definitely create pressure and force Russell Wilson to be uncomfortable because, and I think you told this to me, I don't think it was ever on air, but Russell Wilson is a little bit more live and die in how he's passing this year. And I think that's pretty true. And if you can force him to be a little uncomfortable and force him to have to make those decisions, um, the 49ers defense can maybe take advantage of some of those plays and cause some turnovers. But for the most part, I think that uh, the 49ers defense and this 49ers team in general is just a little bit out of it right now. And Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch are going to be able to do enough on offense to outscore what is going to be a struggling 49ers offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that on defense for the Seahawks, I think they match up incredibly well with the 49ers because 49ers have a bunch of these big-bodied receivers, these strong, big-bodied receivers that you just kind of hope are able to win at the catch point. And that's exactly the type of receiver that the Seattle Seahawks play so well. So it's really going to be difficult for any of these receivers to get any kind of separation against these corners, and Cap has a tendency to get frustrated and really make bad decisions in these type of situations. And I think that's gonna rear its head again, like it did on Thanksgiving, where he played so poorly. Um, on defense, I mean on offense for the Seahawks, I think you really just want to stick to what you're so good at, and that's running the ball. They were able to get a good running game going. You know, Chris Borland has been playing well. Worth noting that his worst game of the season has been against Seattle. So you really want to put the ball in the hands of Marshawn Lynch. You know, allow Wilson to run around with it like he has been this season. I mean, he's been incredible as a runner this year, and he's been killing teams the entire season with his legs. And I think it's going to be much the same against this 49ers team. So as long as he's able to run and Lynch gets his carries, I think this should be a pretty decided win for the Seahawks because I just don't see the 49ers able to put up points on them.
Yeah, and we both said it. This 49ers offense, even if they show some success on defense, the 49ers offense just isn't going to be able to put up any points.
Yeah.
Next up, Cowboys and Eagles, and I feel like this game is going to be not as bad as the Thanksgiving game, but I think I'd favor the Eagles still here. Romo is there's going to be pressure in his face again. You know, this is one of the best offensive lines in the league versus one of the best defensive lines in the league. But Fletcher Cox has been playing really well. Connor Barwin, Trent Cole. There's a lot of pieces up front for the Eagles that are going to be able to create pressure on Romo and force him to be uncomfortable and force those passes into coverage that made him look like such a bad player in the second half of the Thanksgiving game. Uh, so what's going to be huge for Dallas is living through DeMarco Murray through the tackles. Um, but even then, that's not going to be an easy task for the Cowboys. I think it's not going to be easy, but it's going to definitely be what they have to do. They have to assert themselves through the ground, especially through the tackles, because I don't think DeMarco Murray is honestly that great in space. Um, so you have to assert yourself up the middle and vacate the box, um, or force them into the box and vacate the secondary, make Romo's job a little easier. And then on the flip side of the ball, you have to generate pressure on Mark Sanchez. We saw last week that if you can really get any of these quarterbacks that Chip Kelly's had, Nick Foles, Michael Vick, Mark Sanchez, if you can get them to get a little uncomfortable and force the fabrics of the offense to wrinkle a little bit, there's going to be issues. And I think with guys like Tyrone Crawford, Demarcus Lawrence has the potential. Um, there's a couple of pieces that on this Cowboys defense that you think maybe they can get some pressure. But overall, I think this Philly offensive line is too good for that. I don't think they're going to allow it to happen as often as it needs to happen um, for the Cowboys. And I definitely don't trust this Cowboys secondary against guys like Jeremy Maclin, Jordan Matthews, Zach Ertz, and especially with the way Chip Kelly creates space for his players. I just don't think this Cowboys defense is going to hold up that well against the Philadelphia offense. So I don't see this is definitely an uphill battle for the Cowboys, and I don't see them coming away with the win.
Yeah, I think on offense for the Eagles, I think they're going to need to do what they did last during the Thanksgiving game, and that's just hitting their guys underneath and letting them create yards after the catch, and that really killed the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, where Jeremy Maclin and Jordan Matthews were both able to create yards for most of the game, and that really really hurt the Cowboys. And they have issues, tackling, and they have issues covering over over the middle. And Chip Kelly did such a good job getting guys matched up with linebackers or getting the big guys matched up in the slot. And I think that's what they're going to need to do again on Sunday night. And they're going to need to run the ball. The running game has not been anywhere near what it was last year, but they're still able to put up numbers. And LaShawn McCoy had his way with the Cowboys last week, 2 weeks ago. So you have to look back on that and just you have to do it again. And you have to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and keep Mark Sanchez comfortable because we saw what happened last Sunday where the game was kind of put on his shoulders and it didn't end up well. So if you're able to run the ball and then continue to get those guys in space underneath off of play action, I think that the Eagles should have no problem putting up points against this Cowboys defense. As for defensively, I think that you're going to really depend on your. I think that you have to blitz Tony Romo. I think that right now he is playing a little timid. He's hurting a little bit, and the Eagles brought a ton of pressure on Thanksgiving with Michael Kendricks and obviously Fletcher Cox and Trent Cole and Connor Barr were able to create pressure on their own. And Romo just looked very flustered in the pocket, and I think you're going to see that again. And as for the running game, the Eagles did a fantastic job against the Cowboys running game last on Thanksgiving, the only team to hold DeMarco Murray under 4 yards a carry, which is pretty impressive. So you're going to allow your front seven to really stop the run and really bring all the pressure you can on Tony Romo and have your guys one-on-one downfield with Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, because they did such a good job of it on Thanksgiving. And over the course of the last 2 years, the corners, Kerry Williams, Bradley Fletcher, for as much heat as they've gotten overall, they've always played pretty well against the Cowboys, which is worth noting. And I think this is going to be another good win for the Eagles.
Yeah, and it's not even that Cowboys are a bad team. This is just a bad matchup for them. The
Yeah.
way the Eagles are designed, and especially late in the year, I don't think Chip Kelly's gonna let a divisional game go. Um, Lastly, we have the Monday night game between the Saints and the Bears. The
Ooh.
Saints got murdered by the Panthers last week, and that was a shock, especially how considering how bad the Panthers have been for most of the year. I believe the Saints didn't even score a touchdown. I think it was the end score was like 41-3. So the Saints are coming off of a bad loss, but luckily this is a bad uh, Chicago Bears team, especially their defense. And I think that this is a game that Drew Brees uh, can come out and uh, get the passing game established because there's not really going to be much pressure in his face. The best pass rusher that the Bears have is Willie Young, and he's really only like a splash type. Um, so I think Brees is going to be fairly comfortable in the pocket, and he's going to have time to get the ball to his skill players, and Brandon Cooks, Jimmy Graham, Ken Stills, all these guys against what is not a good Bears secondary by any means. So um, yeah, on offense, I trust the Saints to put up plenty of points. Um, I would say upwards of 30 is probably about right. And then on the flip side of the ball, you just have to get Cutler uncomfortable because he had a few good weeks earlier in the year, but after that, it's really just been get him a little uncomfortable, get him off his spot, and he's just throwing things into coverage. And I know he played pretty well for a lot of last week, but still, a lot of his game is so predicated on throwing these jump balls, and if you can get him to throw, if you can get him a little uncomfortable throwing those jump balls, or get him to do it off of his back foot, or um, hit him while he's doing it, if you can just generate pressure and make these throws a little more uncomfortable for him, you're going to have a chance to create some turnovers, and that's going to be huge for them, for the Saints. Is especially just keeping the ball out of those two monster basketball receivers. Um, I don't think the Saints defense is going to play all that well, but I do think, like I said, the Saints offense is going to have a fair amount of success and be able to put up enough points to outscore the Bears offense.
Yeah, the Bears defense is horrible.
Pretty trash.
And I think that you really just gotta hope and pray that the guys they have up front can generate just the tiniest bit of pressure on Breeze, maybe get in his head. Probably doubtful, but creating as many negative plays as they're possibly capable of, and even two or three three and outs in this game will really decide it. Because I think the Bears should really have no problem putting up points because the Saints defense is struggling as well, both stopping the run and the pass. So for I think I think this is probably a reckless plan, but considering what you have on defense with the Bears, you just kind of have to play boom or bust, and you really just kind of throw everything at Drew Brees, who's not been as good under pressure as he's been over the course of the past couple of years. So you're really trying to bring heat on him and try to create a play for your defense. And really play with that, kind of play with fire and hope that the ball rolls your way at least once. As for on offense, I think that you're really attacking the Saints secondary. They just benched Kenny Vaccaro. Their safeties just aren't playing well. The corners aren't playing great as a whole, and you have Alshon Jeffrey, who's very good. I think Brandon Marshall might be done for the season with that rib injury. But Alshon Jeffrey is still a very good player. You have Martellus Bennett. I think those are guys that you need to take advantage of with how badly the Saints defense is playing overall. I think you still want to run the ball. I mean Jonathan Stewart got something like 150 rushing yards on this defense. And Matt Forte is a lot better than Jonathan Stewart. So you have to. They haven't been giving the ball to Forte enough, and I think that this is I think this is a good opportunity for them to really feed him. So if they're able to run the ball a lot and but also get those matchups with Alshon Jeffrey and those corners downfield, I think the Bears should be able to put up quite a bit of points and should be able to win with how their offense plays. But I think it really all depends on how bad their defense is, because if their defense is just atrocious, which is very possible, then you get Cutler just not caring anymore and throwing the ball everywhere and kind of hoping that somebody catches it, and that's when it gets ugly.
Yeah, I think this game could end up sort of like the Steelers-Falcons, like we were talking about earlier, where it's just kind of a shootout, and whoever has the ball last could end up with the win.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up every game for the blessed Johnny Manziel Week 15.
Yes.
This has been the Savage Cast with Derek Klassen and Ben Ben Natan of the Football Savages. Thank you.